Today I am joined by Jason Wright from South Australia from Essential Property Management, and he is going to speak to us about the current market in South Australia. More specifically, Jason, thank you for jumping on board with me.
Oh, my pleasure, Ashleigh. Thanks for having me.
No worries. The whereabouts in SA are you from? Are you sort of close to Adelaide, or whereabouts? Like, what's your market?
Sure. So my office is in a place called Mawson Lake. So we're about 20 minutes or 15 kilometres north of the CBD. The difference, because we're a family-owned business, our scope is really broad. So I go as far south as Aldinga and as far north as Freeling. So basically anything 45 minutes from the CBD in either direction, we have some kind of knowledge of the area. And then South Australia, compared to other states, is governed east and west by the Adelaide Hills in the east and the ocean in the west. So it's about 25 minutes either way, east and west. So it's a fairly broad scope, but I'd say 80% of my market is north of Adelaide.
And what would be your average weekly rental?
So our average weekly rent is fairly low at $370 a week.
Okay.
And then we've got a few in the 400s and 500s.
Yeah, cool. $370 is not too bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah, excellent. Because I'm in a more affluent area, and so we've got properties that range from 200. Well, I'll start with the top range from like $1,200 a week down to $200 per week. So, but it's still an affluent area. But our average actually only works out to be about $370. So as well.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah. So it's just the way it works. So it's lots of cheapies as well. Okay. So first of all, tell me initial thoughts as soon as sort of COVID hit, sort of mid-March. Was it something that you freaked out about, or what were your initial thoughts?
So my initial thoughts were, this is a big scam, there's nothing to worry about, was my immediate thought. My secondary thought to that, one of my best friends is very high up in SA Health, and we were having Sunday brunch, and I said, oh, this is a bit of a farce. And she said, no, this is going to get real quick. And so that was the Sunday, and she implied that I should go back to my office and prepare for lockdown. So on the following Monday, I put strategies in place with my team to ensure that by the following Monday that we would completely work from home and shut our office to the public. And that Sunday night, Scott Morrison announced lockdown. So we were ready, which was really fantastic. The week that followed that, so we introduced virtual video tours, we introduced Zoom routine inspections, we introduced lease signs via electronic signing, and we did handover via KeySafe. So that was all implemented in a really quick way. The following Saturday, I just got my second wind. I thought, well, you can survive, or you can be a victor or a victim or victor. And so I chose victor. So, and we've really battled through. We've been really successful during COVID, to be honest.
So you went quite gung-ho straight from the very start.
Immediately. We were immediately ready for absolute crisis, with the view of never coming back to our office ever again, basically. We were ready.
Do you know, and this is completely like an off the topic sort of random comment. So it's interesting. So your friend is in the SA Health section. So my mum works in Nanapa. So she is in South Australia technically, but works on the Aboriginal communities. Hence you can see my beautiful Aboriginal paintings behind me.
Yes.
But she actually was the one that put us into frenzy as well. So whatever happens, from that SA Health top of the pecking order, they went real serious. And so my mum was the one that called me up and said, Ash, you need to take this seriously. You need to start, going in and topping, catching up on everything, and, topping up on your pantry supplies, and massive crisis. So interesting that the health department, I guess, put that fear in me personally. But yeah, like I said, from my mum, and the same with you from the SA Health.
Yeah, and I still didn't go about it with fear. I went about it as this is an opportunity to shine. This is, and you know, I'm active in so many PM groups, as you know. That's
Yeah.
how you and I've become friends and associates over the years, and um, I'm still baffled by people who are still not doing any form of routine inspection or not going out to properties at all and making allowances for rent arrears, etc. It's just baffling to me that they would use that form of neglect towards their owners. Like, it's baffling. Like, I
Yeah.
can't use another word.
Well,
You know,
oh, you go. I was just going to say,
sorry.
I had a client, another real estate that I heard of in Perth, that is same thing. They still haven't introduced their routine inspections. It's crazy.
Yeah, crazy. And so we went to virtual video tours and virtual Zoom inspections immediately, like in our clients were just super responsive about it. Further to that, I did YouTube educational videos out to my owners and my tenants, and I made it abundantly clear that we're in tough times and that everyone has the right to contact us and tell us their story so that we can assist them in putting payment plans or putting some kind of something together. But we made it clear, you call us, we help you. If we have to call you because you're behind, we have a problem. And
Yep.
I genuinely believe, because we were so proactive about it, we just didn't have it. It was non-existent in total, and we've got a relatively small portfolio of around 300. But of that, we had 8 people affected by COVID and experiencing some form of hardship, but we put payment plans in place. They were communicative with us. We knew exactly when they were getting their Centrelink assistance to get them back on track, and we kept them to their word, and everyone followed through, and we're currently sitting with 0 on our arrears list.
That's great.
Further to that, my view was, if you're in a couples relationship, even if the worst happened, and you both lost your job, with the job seeker, you both get $550 a week. My theory was, in my marketplace where the average rent is $370, well, I'm sorry, I'll help you get caught up, but there's absolutely no reason why you can't maintain $370 from $1,100 a week. The numbers stack up. For everything we're taught when we do our training says 35% of gross income. So the reality is those numbers stack up. You should be able to pay your rent. I understand you're going to do it a little tougher. You might be eating black and gold, but you can do it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So my big thing for me was that, you know, there's COVID. If you are financially suffering because of COVID, but you're getting those benefits, then you are not financially suffering from COVID because you've received the benefits to assist you. So for me, the more genuine ones were the ones that weren't able to get that assistance if they were like non-residents or things like that. So there was a couple of genuine ones. So you had about 4%, it sounds like, affected, which is, I think the going rate around Australia has sort of been between like 0% to 10%, sort of being the highest. So pretty good.
Yeah, and again, I just think the reason we were what I deem successful for our owners and our tenants during this period is just because we were absolutely proactive in our response. We were clear in our communication, you know, and now the media have something to answer for, and you probably almost agree with me. You know, they're creating this scare tactic, and in this current shape, our market's never been tighter. Like, I've been doing this 11 and a half years, and the market is out of control in terms of no stock. There is no stock.
So that's really consistent around as well, like no stock everywhere, obviously, except for Victoria, it's a bit different. But how is new business going? Is there a lot of new business as well?
Yeah, I'm getting some new business, and it's coming from, I had a real spur in the early days of lots of new business, and that came from owners living in fear because they could see through their friends that I was being super proactive versus their current property managers were just sitting on their hands doing absolutely nothing. So I got 16 or 17 new managements in the space of a few days.
Impressive.
Then we had a bit of a lull. What I'm seeing now is, because there's confidence back into the market, there are those people buying properties now and renting their current one out. So listings are coming in. I wouldn't say they're banging the door down, but I'm averaging 6 or 8 a month, and that's, for a small business, I'm happy with that.
Absolutely. We have you noticed any come off the Airbnb market yet, the short-term market, or is that not your?
Well, not really, and the main reason is that Adelaide doesn't have a huge influx of that in the marketplace. Where I did see some issues with renting property is in our CBD. So I listed a property in the CBD, and during COVID, average time on market in the Adelaide CBD is 108 days. Yeah, I managed to get something that I usually get 380 a week for. I ended up getting 330 a week for, and it took 61 days, which is still way better than market. But, and the reason for that is just no international students, so I'm definitely seeing a weakness in anything within 2 kilometres of the CBD because of the less international students. But everywhere else, I'm averaging anywhere from 50 to 90 applications per property. It's just crazy.
50 to 90?
90. Like one of my mum's personal properties, I got 96 applications.
Get out. Wow, that would have to be a record.
It was just crazy.
Wow. Do you have an app system that you use to help with your applications?
Yeah, so we use a South Australian product called Snug, which does it all automated. We still not gone back to traditional open homes since COVID. I did the first week we were allowed to, I did it, and I just went, oh, this doesn't work for me anymore. Because now we have our virtual video tour, we get everyone to pre-apply through Snug. We then process, because we're using an app, it's a really automated system for us to narrow that down. We shortlist it to 5 or 6 excellent applications, and then we do those via private appointment. And so we're getting results in 7 to 8 days on average. And we're only getting cream of the crop through the property, whereas again, in the marketplace, I'm seeing all these colleagues of mine doing these open homes that are taking 4 hours because you can only let 10 people in at a time with queues down the street. And I'm like, what an absolute waste of time for you, the agent, the people that you absolutely know aren't going to be approved.
Yeah.
And more importantly, for the owner or the tenant that may be inconvenienced because they don't have access to their home for the entire day to get through 90 strangers going through their house. And even though we're currently living in a COVID-free state, that doesn't mean the fear for our tenants doesn't still exist.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously that's going to be driving prices up. What's going to happen when there's no stock? Like, what's the vacancy rate at the moment?
It's non-existent is the reality.
So we're
for me
1.3
right now, I've got two properties on the market right now from a portfolio of 300, and I've got one going online, so it's 1% basically. And on any given time, it's always been 5 or 6%. So I've usually sat at 5-6% on market. So yeah, it's vacancy rates about 1. And to be perfectly honest, we're turning them over that quickly that it's the tenant moves out. We've already secured the tenant 24 to 48 hours for any backup if it's not quite up to scratch, and for us to do our exit and entry. And new tenants moved in within 72 hours at the worst in most instances.
Yeah, wow. And I was just thinking as well, like if you were one of those tenants looking at that property, there's also going to be a lot of tenants that would go, I'm not even going to bother putting in an application, like seriously. So there's also the risk of losing some good applicants as well. I know that you're still getting good applicants, but there's a risk of losing some other good applicants just because they're just so scared and intimidated by the number.
Yeah, correct. And more, yeah, I think so when we're talking to people, we're saying if you know you're a 10 out of 10 applicant, apply, because for the first time in the history of the world almost, we're only considering 10 out of 10 applicants, you know. So in the past, you've always, anything from an 8 to a 10 usually gets you in the door. But at this moment in time, if you are not a 10, if you don't have exemplary rent records and exemplary routine inspections, don't waste your time. Like, you're not going to get a house. And I'm saying to people, and if you know you're a 10 out of 10, make my job really easy. Attach your rent ledger, attach your last 2 routine inspections. If you want your application to stand out, that's how.
Yeah, the more information I find as well.
Correct, because then there's absolute transparency.
Yeah. So moving forward with the market, so it sounds like you're definitely going to continue with that change that you've made of applications first, shortlist viewings. That's something that you'll consider ongoing?
That's forever. Yeah. 100%. I think the 2 things that have come from COVID that we will continue in our business for the end of time will be virtual virtual open inspections with a virtual application process and shortlisting to between 2 and 5. And then in desperate situations where I can't move a piece of stock, I'll consider open inspections if I haven't managed to get a result. And then I intend to keep virtual routine inspections as part of my fold. Not every inspection, but in South Australia, we can do them. We can do them up to every 28 days, but we do 4 per annum. So I intend for every second one to be a virtual from here on in.
Sorry, I didn't know that. Go back. So you can actually do up to 12 inspections per year if you wanted to.
100%. So if I fail you at inspection, I'm allowed back in 28 days for a re-inspect, and I can re-inspect you every 28 days until I obviously don't renew you because you're an absolute waste of my time.
Great. So we're 4 and that's it. So, well, it still is a lot, I think, but still, that's, I never knew that.
No, so 4 is standard for us as a minimum. So everyone does it every 13 weeks or quarterly, but if you fail, we can re-inspect in 28 days.
Okay. And how did that go down?
And if we breach you, we can re-inspect in 14.
Yeah, we can do that as well. Interesting. There you go. Zoom inspections. So this one surprises me because how do owners react to it?
Well, that's a really great question, because I know Perth and Adelaide are probably the only 2 marketplaces, or the main 2 marketplaces, where we charge for routine inspections.
Yeah.
And it came up as a debate in our team really early on as to whether we would continue to charge. And I said, well, we're providing a service to our owners, and my promise to my team at this moment in time is to keep you all fully employed, but I need the revenue to come in order for us to do that. But so we send a Zoom link like you and I right now, except we get them to use their mobile device. We get in a chat like you and I did at the beginning of our conversation today, and then we let them know which point we're hitting record. We get them to flip the screen around so they can't see. We ask them to ensure that they don't let any minors into the video during the recording. And then we just get them to take us through a tour of the home as if as if we were doing a FaceTime inspection with someone looking to rent from interstate. And we get them to take us around, show us the shower screen, show us the tiles. We get them to show us the hot water service and inside the oven and in the range hood, and get them to Zoom so that we can see it. And to be honest, the feedback from owners has been exemplary. And I'll go as far as saying our entire team noticed that our tenants did attend, like across the board, we were failing less people in inspections because they were trying much harder, knowing that the owner was getting a video of the home.
Okay, that's an interesting, an interesting thought there. So, I mean, I think it's a real mindset, because I know that we did a month of some virtual inspections, but the truth was it actually took us sometimes longer to do it virtually than what it was to actually do the inspection. So with your Zooms would have still been the same time.
How did you do it virtual then?
We
just got them to take photos, or?
Yes, just them doing photos, and maybe sometimes a video, but it wasn't ideal for us.
Yeah, my issue about the photo style, because a lot of my colleagues were doing that, and not to discredit you, because you know I've got a ton of respect for you.
Yeah.
But my issue with that was that the consumer, being the tenant, had complete control of the camera, and therefore they were able to take a photo of a room from an angle that suited their needs. Therefore, what was going on behind them was something I wasn't able to see. So the fact that we just did virtual, and we made an appointment time so that they had to meet us in the room at that particular time. There were some teething issues in the beginning, but everyone was super responsive. There were probably a total of 6 or 7 tenants that, for whatever reason, mainly in and around age and ability to use that form of technology, that we had to be a little more lenient for. But in most instances, they were people that didn't fall on our radar, so to speak, as tenants that we'd have a problem with anyway. But anyone where we felt that they fell onto that category, then we went, okay, well, what do we have to do to get you to use that technology? What support can we give you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think moving forward with Zoom inspections, for me, another way of having it as a value add when, charging a client for it who was concerned, is also inviting the owner into the Zoom or into that video so that they're also present. And I know it's not viable every single time, but I always thought every second or third time or even if it was just once a year, that would actually be quite a good moving forward exercise to do.
Oh, do you know, thank you. That's a cool idea. I had not even thought of that. That is a really cool idea, particularly because I would say 70% of my owners are interstate owners, because South Australia is a really great cash flow positive place to invest in. And so I've got a huge amount of absentee owners. So that's actually a cool idea. I might
Yeah, absolutely. Because it also will probably help, what I call the love triangle, between owner, tenant, property manager. And it would be quite nice to have, the property manager, owner, tenant together in a Zoom going through how's everything going. I don't know, I just think it'd be quite nice to do. My staff are old school, so from changes moving forward, we haven't implemented any changes. We're pretty good virtually and efficient, from an efficient point of view, we're pretty good, but our portfolio is, 85% within our suburbs. So for us, my staff actually like to go out and visit the tenants, do the inspections, and do it that way. So.
Well, I guess I'm blessed in the situation that my mum and I are the oldies in our team. And we decided to do this because we were investors as a family, and particularly my mum, and we were not happy with the old way of doing it. And so we've always led the innovation of what we do. So we're blessed that our team, we've got 3 full-time employees apart from Mum and I, and they're all young, so that they all
They
just
embrace
jumped
it.
it. Yeah, they absolutely embraced it.
Yeah, beautiful. No, that's great. And what do you see sort of, I know prediction's always a hard one, but where do you see the market being, say, in 6 months' time? If we were to chat again in 6 months' time, what do you reckon?
Where do I reckon? Oh, so I think we're going to see an influx of investors, because I think that what's going to happen for the South Australian market is that people, consumer confidence is going to come back. People will continue to buy property. I think as long as we as an industry communicate to owners that we got through the biggest, I think from a rental perspective, this is the biggest financial crisis of the rental market ever. I think this was a far bigger tragedy than the global financial crisis, if I'm honest. I think the global financial crisis had an impact on the selling, but I don't think it did the rental market. Whereas
Oh, hold on, but even though it's only affected 5 to 10%, do you still think that?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
genuinely do. I genuinely think that this was one of those big tragedies that we all thought was going to go horribly, and it didn't. But I think we all prepped for the worst, and I think we got through it because we were really proactive. You know, I think there are people that didn't get through it for whatever reason. But I genuinely think that the market will boom in the next 6 months. And I am fearful that the rents are going to go up reasonably high as a result of this. And I kind of blame the media for it, if I'm honest.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, I'm a fan of maximum return on investment. So I'm very excited for my owners who are going to get $30, $40 or $50 a week more 6 months from now. But the consumer is the tenant, and they're the ones that are going to have to wear that. And, you know, $30 a week is a lot of money for those people doing it tough right now. So I'm not deliberately increasing rents at the moment, but I think the market allows us to.
Yeah, we're restricted with our increases. We can still issue notice of increases, but it just can't come into effect till the end of March. But we are seeing like 10%.
Today.
So you can increase.
Today.
Oh, as of today.
As of today, yeah. As of today.
Great. Well,
it's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that we are like in Perth, where I do worry as well, because it's 10 to 20% increases that we are seeing when properties are being relisted to be advertised. And come 29th of March, come the end of that emergency period, there is going to be a lot of people just slapping on increases. So I think, for me, I think that I agree. I think we're going to boom over the next 6 months. I think, though, you know, it could get to a crisis point probably more in 2 or 3 years. That's where I sort of think, okay, I don't know it's going to be a bit of a shitstorm, I think, then. But we will get the investors buying, because at the moment we've got all the first home buyers buying, but we'll get the investors buying when they start seeing these rents going up and getting the confidence to invest. But, you know, it's just a great big revolving cycle.
Look, I think the biggest challenge in my marketplace at this moment is the removal of the job seeker grant. And particularly so, to go specifically, there's elements of my region where I would say 35 to 40% of my portfolio was already on some form of government benefit. And so my fear when that occurred is that those people were accustomed to living on low incomes, and then their incomes were doubled as a result of job seeker. And I see the government's rationale was to boost spending in the marketplace. But the downside is those people who have been accustomed to living on limited incomes have now had an extra $275 a week to buy KFC and do silly things with their money. And as they lose that...
Spending money on KFC is never a silly thing, Jason.
But you see my point. My fear is now they're not going to have that disposable income the way they have these last 6 months. So I'm actually a little more fearful about my rent arrears issue becoming an issue in the coming months as that job seeker is reduced than I have been in the past. And I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've had all the support up until now. So as soon as that support's gone, and also for businesses as well, you know, the support that businesses aren't getting from the government, that's all going to drop off. And then we will have another chat in 6 months' time, and we'll like do a little recap of today and see whether where it's going to be, because it's going to be, I'm going to be so fascinating to see, just in 6 months' time, or even in 6 months' time, end of March, I'm going to be super excited to see whether things are still moving up. Because right now, I can tell you, around Australia, it's very consistent everywhere. I really just thought there was going to be big changes and a lot of variances, and there absolutely isn't any variances.
Yeah, everyone's just booming.
And what's interesting is that we've all got our different legislations, we've all got our different, different rules. Yet they haven't actually had any effect because we're still all experiencing the same. So that's quite interesting as well. That regardless of the rules, regardless of the legislation, like there's not any difference in the actual on the floor, on the ground situation.
No, and I also think, though, that whilst there's variances in the rules and legislation, the fundamental was the same. We all had some form of moratorium on eviction. We all had some form of moratorium on rent increases. We were all affected by the same embargoes from insurance companies pulling out. So our job has always, and I've done this job in South Australia and Queensland, fundamentally it's the same job with a couple of minor variances. And I think, so for me, it makes perfect sense that we're kind of experiencing the same stuff nationwide.
Yeah, excellent. Well, that's I love talking to you because you are as honest as I like people to be.
Well, I just think in our job, you absolutely have to be 100% honest. And I think, again, as a family of investors, our biggest frustration about our property managers was their lack of honesty and forthrightness. Tell me the bad news, because I can fix it if I know the bad news. I can't fix it if you're misleading me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's nice and refreshing. So, when sometimes you get people where they're worried of, they're worried of saying something that could be controversial, but that you've got a strong opinion on it. Sometimes you just got to own your opinion. Yep, this is what I think is going to be a problem. This is why I think it's a problem, and And you were the right man for the South Australian job of my interview. Oh,
thanks, Ash. I appreciate that. That's awesome.
So 6 months, I will chat to you again. Thank you for joining me today. And
you're so welcome.
And I really honestly do look forward to seeing how it all changes. So we'll speak again then.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.